Okay, so hi everybody. Welcome to another session of Come Cloud with us. This is a very special session because of the Ignite event, and we have amazing panel today with us. My name is Abdul Qazi. I'm your co-host, and with me I have Christopher Gale. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Hey, everybody, great. Glad to be
Good.
back home after a whirlwind trip, to Orlando and off to Seattle. But yeah, glad to be here. Glad to have this wonderful host of characters. So, we'll have some fun tonight. I can't wait.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. So let's get started, right? So I'll let the panel introduce themselves, starting from John.
Yeah, hey everybody. Yeah, good to be here. Hey everybody watching. I'm John Lunn. I work for a company called BT in the UK. Currently stuck in this dingy, dark hotel room in the centre of England in Birmingham, but all is good. Yeah, I'm a technical architect. Working with predominantly cloud solutions based on Azure, so I help BT's customers kind of transition that whole meandering journey to understand where they're going to put their workloads. So yeah, that's me. Thank you for having me on.
Okay, next up is Shannon.
I'm Shannon Keene. I'm a senior product manager at Microsoft on the digital influence team for the identity and network access division. So, a lot of words. We do interesting outreach to the community, trying to demystify identity concepts. And then we run these little concentrated campaign efforts. We call them swarms. We have run a couple of swarms on Microsoft Entra Verified ID and the Identity Governance Suite. We're getting ready to kick off a couple of more. So definitely follow me and stay tuned. And we try to engage with the community and help embrace and with, kind of get folks excited about adoption.
Thanks, Shannon. Next up is Gregor.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Gregor Sutty. I'm an Azure architect at a company called Intercept in the Netherlands. I'm also an Azure MVP and an MCT, and I'm from Scotland. And my background is predominantly in DevOps and data. So, kind of moving into an architect role has been quite interesting. So, yeah, that's what I do day to day.
Amazing. Thanks. Scott Duffy.
Or Scott Duddy, depending on how you spell it. My name is Scott, and I am an online trainer. I teach Microsoft Azure, primarily on a site called Udemy, and I have over 800,000 students. And I've been in the Microsoft world my whole career, from the early days of .NET Beta 1.0 kind of thing back then till now, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Scott. I love your courses. So amazing.
That's it. Your check is in the mail.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Next up
Best
is
$20 I ever spent.
Oh, hi everyone. I'm Peter Rising. I work for a UK Microsoft partner called CPS, where I am head of practice for security, compliance, and identity. So I'm also a Microsoft MVP in M365 apps and services. I work predominantly with the Microsoft 365 suite of SC&I products, focusing very, very heavily on the compliance side of things. Purview and privacy and that sort of thing. So and I live up in the northeast of England, near Newcastle upon Tyne.
Thanks, Peter. And last but not least, the April Edwards. I love your handle, so I'm like, yeah, that gives it away.
Thank you. I had to change it because it used to be Scuba Ninja, and people would be like, "What?" And I'm like, long story of a nickname my mother gave me when I was 9. I'm the April Edwards. I am based in the UK. I work for a small company called Microsoft. I'm a cloud developer advocate.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, I know, right?
Teeny tiny.
Itty bitty company. But yeah, I sit in the UK, but I work globally. I work a lot with the MVPs in the community. So Gregor and John, I know quite well. I'm a cloud developer advocate and DevOps practice lead. I specialize in infrastructure as code, automation, DevOpsy things. And I was the host for Microsoft Ignite in the UK last week. So I was at the forefront of the action.
Amazing. Thanks, April. So before we get into the panel, like April kind of mentioned about the Ignite experience. So let's talk about that. So Chris and Gregor, I know you were in Seattle. Give us a rundown, what was the in-person experience was after 2 years of COVID?
Sure, I can take the lead on that one. So I was going to say, wait, there was a conference in Seattle. I mean, we just got together for like a bunch of drinks and stuff. We hung out. But no, in all seriousness, it was much smaller than past presence for I've been to every Ignite, and I think I'm fortunate to be able to say that. But I've been to every in-person Ignite, so 6 events, at least since 2015, unless you go back to, I think there was the earlier one that was branded Ignite, but from 2015 in Chicago, to out in Atlanta, to the pseudo one that was supposed to happen in New Orleans but never did, and Orlando. It was much smaller. So we're talking maybe 3,500 folks. But some of the pro sides, it was a much more like community kind of got everyone together. The layout of it, the center of the conference area was where they had most of the keynotes. Full 360 degrees, you could walk around the stage, but it kind of drew everyone into it from different areas, different aspects. They had a bunch of different expert zones, so like a red, green, blue, yellow, but they kind of broke out into ask the experts, different pods, whatever else, just kind of bringing everybody in, just from a layout perspective. Gregor, I'll look to you for some other comments.
Yeah, I mean,
go back
I think just being able to go to Seattle, be back in person, was fabulous. Bumped into quite a few people I know, which was great. I haven't seen them for a while. Bumped into lots of friends I have came across on Twitter that I haven't seen ever in person, so that was really nice. Lots of MVPs. The event itself was an interesting layout. I think they tried a few things differently. I wrote a blog post that some people have read, and I tried to be kind of honest. I know I was probably a little bit critical. They could do better, but I think it's the first time they've done in person for a while, so we'll have to try and give them credit for doing some new stuff. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. I thought it was quite a good vibe on day one, for example. It was quite a good start. There was quite a lot of people near the hub, they called it, and it was really cool to see the keynotes right in front of you. A little bit disappointed that Satya wasn't there, I have to be honest. I kind of made a 10-hour flight to be there and was hoping he was there, but I think I was just spoiled the last time when I was sitting right in front of him when he was doing it. That kind of gave me I had hairs in the back of my neck stand up at the last Ignite, so I was hoping for something similar. But it was good. It was good. Lots of things they could do better, so I've given some feedback on some of that stuff. But there was a lot of good content. That was the thing. There was a lot of good content. Trying to get to it all in person was really hard. So it's good that you can come home again and see it all, like all of the sessions, apart from the only in-person one. So there was highs and lows. I think the best part was just meeting people from all around the world. And the venue was really good. I think the venue is cool. So if they look at some of the feedback that people have given, I think next year could be really good. The experts, Ask the Experts was quite good. What I really missed from the previous Ignites were the product teams. You could go and speak to the product teams, and that wasn't there. Yeah. So the Ask the Expert was slightly not as good as the meeting the product teams last year. But I still enjoyed it. I had a great time. The weather was brilliant. The people were great. The food was good. Seattle was a really nice place to go. So lots of positives. Yeah, I just think they can tidy it up a little bit and it'll be really good next year. That's my kind of general feedback.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
I was going to poke at you, Gregor. I'm like, really? You're picking on me for the Ask the Expert? I mean, I did one of those sessions. Really?
That's okay. One thing I would say,
the irony was Chris was doing a virtual session from Ignite.
For anyone who didn't catch it, yeah. So I was moderating one session while physically at Ignite doing another session, answering some questions, and I was just sitting in the hallway, just doing my thing, and then jumped into the next Ask the Expert session afterwards. So had fun with it, but yeah, I agree with Gregor on a bunch of the stuff too. I think a lot of people were just hungry for information. They really were. Yeah. And, the Ask the Experts, I think we got to keep that. Maybe they'll fine tune it. But it was really nice for someone like me who's, not part of Microsoft or whatever, but being surrounded by other folks that are from Microsoft or from other companies or whatever, just kind of having this like discussion with folks. They had questions about maybe Intune or whatever it might be. Here's what I know, here's what I don't know, but I know this person that can answer that question. So it was nice to be able to just hand off and say, go track this person down, or I think this person's over here, somebody else can answer it. But that was nice. So hopefully folks enjoyed that. I certainly did, from just being behind the desk and, trying to answer questions. And a lot of it was, honestly, I had folks coming to me saying, oh, you don't work for Microsoft, so you're actually going to tell me the truth. I'm like, okay. So I had a little bit of a longer line than all the rest of the folks, but it is what it is.
No, that's actually great. Yeah. So now coming to April, seems like the Manchester one was a hit. Amazing pictures. Love the pictures there. So yeah, I will let you kind of talk about that experience.
Yeah, so I had the fortune to host Build in the UK in May and do sessions at Build. So I was streaming live at Build, pre-recorded, so we could go around the sun, and then I was hosting in the UK and then Ignite. So two very different but flagship events. And how I got roped into this, I don't know, but I was asked to do Ignite, and I said, yep, absolutely. And when we were getting ready to do the event, they're like, do we do this in London or we do this in Manchester? So for people that do not live in the UK, everyone comes to England and they go to London. London is in England, there's so much more. And the reason why we chose the North, this might ruffle Peter's feather. The kind of North is Manchester is the top growing tech city in England. So we made the event about community. So yes, it was missing some of the technical depth. I had some guys there that were from Sweden, and they're like, we came here because you spoke English versus going to Deutschland, to where they speak German. And I'm like, I get it. And they're like, we really want to see more technical stuff. And there was great Ask the Expert sessions, local community MVPs, but we didn't have the product groups. But what we had was community. And after 2.5 years of everything we've been through, we had success stories from local councils. We had universities. So we have a massive skills gap in the UK with digital skills. We have a lot of people doing great stuff, but not getting that story out. So we built this community around success. And that's what we need, especially in the UK, because the theme of Ignite was doing more with less. And in the UK, we're having a lot of issues at the moment, if anyone's watched the news today. So being able to leverage products that accelerate innovation, bring the community together was huge. So the whole view was very different in the UK, but it got massively positive feedback. And it's a very technical and warm, welcoming community here.
Yeah, I think one feedback that I saw online was people wanted to see more technical sessions, and it was more of a marketing and salesy. So for the folks who did not attend, Peter, Scott, John, Shannon, like, what about your feedback from a virtual aspect? What did you guys think? How did that look to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to jump in. I managed to get a bit of time off. I was gutted first and foremost not to be able to make it out to one of the events, whether that be Seattle or the UK event. I did register for the UK event, but with everything going on, I just couldn't manage to make it up there. But I did manage to watch the vast majority of the content. The ladies that hosted the event, April and the team, did an absolutely awesome job. It was great. To be honest, it was great to see that community event, because I think for a long, long time now, we've kind of all been mixing in, community, virtual events, things like that. To see those people now up on a stage talking about their experiences, talking about work and things that they've done over the last 2 years was great. Some of the kind of intersplicing stories that you had from businesses, I thought were quite, insightful, in the sense that you actually had real businesses on there talking with Microsoft staff members about, their transition to the cloud. So you're hearing from senior folk at, I think it was Nationwide, and there were some other companies up on the stage there as well. I managed to catch a few of the sessions, but it's like anything. They're recorded, the technical sessions. And I think I like that way that it transitioned as a virtual event. It transitioned from some of the live sessions in Seattle were kind of interspliced with the spotlight sessions as the team were kind of speaking about them up in Manchester. So that was a nice blend. But yeah, I'm really gutted to hear about the experience not being quite on par in Seattle. So yeah, let's hope next time we get to an in-person that's kind of up to bit. But yeah, it was great. It was a great experience to watch as a virtual event. And I think for me personally, I think I prefer virtual events at the moment, because I think I've just gone into this little bubble with virtual events. But yeah, absolutely, getting back out to in-person is something I'm looking forward to. So let's hope the next session they've upped the ante a bit. But yeah, that's my experience anyway.
I mean, I don't know. I love the on-demand aspect, right? Because I had to juggle quite a bit. We're getting ready to do a number of those swarms coming up, and so we've had a lot of activity, a lot of planning, a lot of meetings upon meetings upon meetings, and it was nice to be able to go catch everything on demand. And to me, it didn't really feel like I missed a beat at all, not being there, right? So from a virtual conference perspective, I feel like we've sort of figured it out, but maybe it's that feeling like we've got to get back to this in-person thing, and what does that look like, and what have we done before? Maybe that's where it was sort of missing, right? So I think we've lent ourselves well towards this world of hybrid remote, and I think maybe that's where we stepped into first and foremost, and then kind of forgot to backfill on the folks that were in person. How many people were there? I don't know if I know the exact number. Do you, Chris or Gregor?
What I
think about
understood was
three.
3,500, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
it's bigger than I thought. I thought it was like about 1,000 or maybe 1,500. So it's a little bit more than that. Okay.
So, from my perspective, I was kind of surprised at the topics. Like, you go into it looking at the session calendar, and I was looking for certain things. So I sort of have search terms that I go through looking for keywords that are interesting to me. So I kind of have to admit that, there's nothing on anything Microsoft Learn related. So there, maybe going back to Ignite a couple of years ago, even 3 years ago, there was a lot of certification content. The Microsoft Learn team was there in person. I was on their laptop playing with Microsoft Learn at the Ignite. I can remember that. I mean, I even got to talk with somebody from Microsoft Docs, and so it's sort of like a lot of what I consider education content or certification content not there. I started searching for terms like SQL Server and things like that, and it's like, I guess maybe it's a fair criticism. It just seemed like a lot of the really technical stuff wasn't even in the digital sessions. I don't know if I'm alone on that, but I didn't. I found I'd had to go into other areas to find other interesting things. I really like the Azure Arc stuff, because that's like a lot of that stuff is new to me. Kubernetes on-prem, all the edge computing stuff. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. But the stuff that when I go to Ignite in person, I spend most of my time with all the educational content, because that's my interest. And so my impression is the content was maybe different focus than in past years.
My experience is very similar to what Shannon shared with us, in that due to workload, when Ignite started, I had to consume a lot of it on demand. I was able to, as I was finishing my working day in the afternoon, Ignite was just sort of getting started. So I did manage to catch a bit of the early keynote content. But then I was finding myself having to go back a bit later on and finding what I wanted to get from it. And what I would say is I don't know if I registered incorrectly or in some way, shape or form, but I was not able to, by default anyway, get to the UK content. I found myself in the mainstream more than anywhere when I was tuning in live, which was absolutely fine, because I knew where to look for what I wanted to look for, which was filter by security, compliance, and identity, and see what was new there. The only issue I had with Ignite as a whole on this occasion was maybe, well, a couple of things would be from the areas of my interests, SC and I, there wasn't a massive amount of content on this occasion, which in a sense is a good thing, because we've had a lot over the last couple of introducing Entra and Purview, and we've had enough to deal with. So it was quite nice that it was quite light and evolution rather than revolution. But the other thing that really sticks out for me was the timing of it. And I know Microsoft don't necessarily have to think in these terms, but certainly there was a lot going on in the UK in terms of UC Expo was happening a couple of days before Ignite, and then after that, South Coast Summit, two very, very big UK community conferences which had been planned for a very long time. So and then there was Collab Days in Belgium as well. So the timing wasn't great, and would be the only thing I would say. And it'd be nice if that was considered a bit more. But I get how it's impossible to please everyone.
Yeah, and I agree, Peter, because a lot of people ask me, "Are you going to South Coast Summit?" Because I was there last year, and I was like, "No, I'm driving home, and I'm stopping at home. I'm not going down to the South Coast." It's an amazing event. Donna Sarkar was there, so she hosted Ignite in the US, flew over, and then went to South Coast Summit. I'm like, she's amazing. I'm going to bed. I was just like, I'm
I
done.
seriously have no idea how she did it either, because she left at like 4 o'clock. She had a session like 3 to 4 p.m. PST. Hopped the plane right after it and booked over. So kudos to you all.
Exactly the same.
Do without breaks.
Because I was watching her hosting at Ignite, watching her sitting in a chair interviewing 2 folks, and then a couple of days later, she was sitting at my session at South Coast Summit, and I thought, how have you done this? She's just incredible.
Yeah. And I think Scott touched on a few things. So I sit on a team with Amy I cannot pronounce her last name. She's going to kill me. Amy
Collier.
We'll learn her name at not another time at 1 in the morning. But she and I do a lot of the docs and the learn stuff, Scott. So it's interesting how it's kind of spread amongst the other teams and how we have the connections change. We're both wrong, Shannon, for the record.
Is that what she said?
Yeah, she's
there it is.
We'll have a learn how to say Amy's surname later story. So actually, I released a PowerShell video on Monday with the PowerShell team because they didn't get a session, right? And I see a lot.
Yeah,
of
I wondered,
Andrew, about the IT. Yeah, they didn't get one.
Interesting.
So Jason Helmick and Michael Green said, let's do this video now for Ignite. So we did the PowerShell 7 Unplugged, which is like 5 or 6 modules from the PowerShell team of all about PowerShell 7. We launched it on Monday, and it's been pretty popular so far, but we're just like, screw you, Ignite, we'll do our own video. So we launched it. And it's tough because everyone loves PowerShell, and PowerShell's for me a cornerstone, but it's not as like flashy as AI and Viva and
all the new brand names, the Entras and the Purviews and the things like that.
Yeah, and I've heard it say Entra and Entra. Somebody asked me today, how do I say it? And I say I have to like stop and think about it when I'm doing my sessions. I always say Entra, right? But people will say Entra, just like Azure and Azure. So
I always think it's like entrance, but you just don't say the ints. Entra.
There was a really funny Twitter thread that said that Microsoft missed the mark. They should have made it be Encarta. And I was like, oh, I mean, maybe. But it was like one of those funny like Twitter threads that, all of a sudden you're like 5 minutes and you're like, okay, this thread won't end. I'm going to close out of the browser now.
So talking
on
about
the Azure,
Sorry,
I was just going to say on the Azure thing, I have to go with my very dear friend Azure McFarlane because it's her name and that's how she says it. So that's what I'm going with.
I said it that way for years and years, and then all of a sudden I worked for a Microsoft partner because again I was in the M365 space prior to being full-time Azure, right? And so I went to a Microsoft partner and went to a customer and I said Azure, and everybody looked at me like I had stuff crawling out of my ears, and I'm like, what? And then they pulled me aside afterwards and they were like, we live in America, and I'm like, okay. So I had to assimilate. So now I say Azure, but without hesitation, because there was a period where I was like, Azure, I don't even know, the cloud.
Yeah, so talking about that, then let's get into talking about your favorite features or services that were announced at Ignite. So I'll start with John. John, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, and talk about what you'll really liked about the new features that were announced, and what were the missed opportunities that you would have liked to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, obviously the space I work in predominantly at the moment is Azure. Which one am I going to choose? So I'm British, so it's Azure. So obviously the first thing I tend to do is search the events for anything related to Azure. I'll tend to focus around the kind of the core infrastructure type stuff, and then kind of break away from there. One thing I did notice on the content was that it was kind of more geared up for kind of business outcome and business outcome focus rather than technology focus. So I found it really difficult just at the for a lot of the sessions to kind of work out what the announcement was about. It was more around, this is how you use products. And I get it, I get that it is business outcome led, but it was difficult to kind of break it out of what are the announcements. So I very quickly turned to the book of news just to kind of have a scan through it. And a couple of things caught my eye. Now, I tend to focus on, I do weekly videos, so I'm kind of trying to keep up as best I can with announcements on Azure as they happen. So, on a weekly basis, I look at it. But some of the things that kind of caught my eye on the infrastructure side of Azure was this Elastic SAN capability that's gone into preview now. That looks quite interesting from, kind of customers I've dealt with over the years. It's always been that thing that customers will migrate all their user and department type data off to 365, to OneDrive and SharePoint sites. And they're normally left with this big lump of data sat on some SAN that they don't really know what to do with. So, for years, we've kind of tried different approaches, from customers just saying they want to, lift and shift IaaS file servers straight into Azure, to, looking at things like Azure Files and dropping that data into storage accounts in Azure. But now we've got this Elastic SAN capability. I'm quite interested to see exactly, how that can work, because obviously it's high IOPS. It's the ability to create multiple volumes, in that kind of SAN element. So that caught my eye. And with that, there was some announcements around premium storage as well, which is great. Look, Microsoft are always kind of revolutionizing the speed of disks, the high IOPS, and the kind of the disk sizes. So that was coupled in with that. But like Shannon said, in my previous life, I was very heavily involved with the 365 side, for a number of years, and certainly around unified comms and messaging. So I always like to teeter over to that area as well, just to see what's going on and try and keep my hand in. And so there was some great announcements around some new Teams features. Teams Premium caught my eye as well. So really cool to see some of the AI technology that Microsoft are building into that product set now and available. I think it's either in preview or it's coming very soon. I think the previews come in later on in the year for Teams Premium. But the ability to kind of brand your own meetings and put your logos is one thing. But then when you look at things like AI generated insights into the meeting, I think things like they got intelligent recap of the meeting, so it'll pick out specifics around kind of personalized highlights of meetings.
That means I can put my avatar up, fall asleep, and then just get the highlights, and my avatar's awake for me, because I've actually tried that on a Teams meeting today.
Do the avatar's eyes not close though?
No, you set the expressions, and so I have the Oculus that I know Microsoft has the HoloLens, but Advocacy bought us the Oculus, and your eyes close and it does all your facial movements. But it only opens your mouth when you open your mouth. So you literally can put your avatar on, have a nap, and then get all the highlights of your meeting. Don't recommend it. Bad business practice, but it totally works.
But it's pretty cool, and so I think they're kind of two things that, there were loads of announcements. At the end of the day, I think from what I saw from the Azure side, there were lots of, product enhancements, feature enhancements. So let's face it, there's always feature enhancements in Azure. So that for me, it was kind of much of a muchness. There were a few others, but look, I'll let somebody else speak now. But for me, it was just those two areas. That's how I like to try and consume. So those two things kind of caught my eye.
Perfect. Thanks, John. Shannon, what about you?
So Entra Identity Governance reached public preview. That's really cool, with lifecycle workflows, right? So that takes some of the automated tasks, or the tasks I guess you could automate that were very repetitive, and allows you to be able to automate that. So that's a really slick feature, and that makes this feel more like for like with some of our competitors that are out there. And then taking into consideration customers that have bought into the Azure Active Directory environment and the identity platforms all up, taking that into consideration as well, right? So having them hang out in there and continue to expand and build out their governance workflows for entitlement management, access reviews, that was kind of cool. And then the idea that workload identities is going to reach general availability. Now, I know I did a session with you all earlier in the year about workload identities. Now, Entra workload identities will reach general availability next month. So the conditional access policies that I talked about, the access reviews, identity protection, super cool. It's going to reach general availability next month. I think finally having something to be able to protect those non-human identities, that's key. And I know that customers were asking for it, even when I was in the field, right? So it's nice to see that it's there. It's nice to see that it's something that customers now can, use within their world, and they can protect themselves from potential security breaches. So I think those are the two things I was excited to see. And no, I am in the identity division, but those are things that excite me, right? So it was nice to see those two major announcements.
Awesome, great. Thanks, Shannon. Gregor, what about you?
Yeah, well, my first comment was it was interesting being there because without the book of news, you're kind of rushing to sessions and you don't really know what gets announced. So I was there for 2 days and couldn't tell you a single thing that got announced apart from the keynotes. So I had to look at the book of news earlier. So feeling a little bit jet lagged the last week. I've taken a couple of notes. So from my Azure dev background, Azure Cosmos DB adding Postgres support is quite a key because a lot of our customers use both, and now that the two are kind of combined, that's really good. A lot of our customers use Service Bus, so Service Bus Explorer, which was kind of like a community tool, is now built into the portal, so that's pretty useful. I'll skip over a couple because I think April's probably going to cover GitHub Advanced Security. The other one is Azure Communication Services. So we've started playing around with that. A little bit disappointed I couldn't meet the product team because you can use the tool in America, but we don't want to store data in America. We want to be able to use it in Europe. And they brought out a feature where you can do call automation, but it still needs accounts in America. So I'd really like to have spoken to someone to follow up on that, but I'll do that in the user groups. And the last one, real quick, was the confidential virtual machines. So I was at Mark Rusinovich's session, and he was talking about confidential computing being the kind of norm going forward. So they've brought out confidential VMs for AKS going forward. So that was quite interesting. In terms of missed opportunities, being there in person, there wasn't anyone you could walk up to and say, "Can you show me a demo of something?" No one had laptops. I found that a little bit odd. You couldn't go, "This feature's out. Can you demo this?" There wasn't that. So that was a missed opportunity that I just thought of there. Just jumped into my head. I'd like to have spoken to people and said, "Can you show me this?" or "Can we talk about this?" So that probably for missed opportunities. But with that, I'll pass it on to the next person.
Scott?
So, Gregor mentioned the Cosmos DB PostgreSQL. I think what's cool about that is you can use basically the same SDK, same API in your code and not have to support, the relation, like this relational database running on Cosmos for the first time. I don't think we yet appreciate the efficiencies of that. We're going to see that, and I can't wait to play with that. I got really excited by the AI. Now Microsoft has a partnership with the OpenAI group, and I've been playing around with this GPT-3 this year. Supposedly, you can give it a paragraph, and it'll write a blog post for you. And I mentioned in my newsletter this week that maybe in a couple of years, the whole newsletter will just be written by GPT-3. So, but it's not there yet, right? The DALL-E, we've seen those pictures on Twitter of like a monkey riding a unicorn eating a taco, and it's like computer can generate any image that you tell it to, and that's being integrated. The DALL-E stuff, GitHub Copilot, so the Codex APIs from OpenAI. There's some controversy with that, obviously, with the copyrights and the GPLs and the Mozilla license and all these things, but that'll get sorted out. I think what's interesting is Satya said that 40% of people who code with GitHub Copilot, people who code with GitHub Copilot, 40% of the code is written by GitHub Copilot. Like it's like almost half of the code is actually contributed by this AI for people who use the tool. And so I think that's going to be, you think about that, the efficiencies of writing code in the future, that's just massive opportunity waiting to be explored. As far as opportunities, I already mentioned the Microsoft Learn certification stuff. I usually attend, Mark Rusinovich usually has infrastructure related talks at Ignite. So walk through a data center or how a server's built, and he's holding up Microsoft's own networking card that they've invented, and some very interesting deep down wires and things stuff. I saw he had a couple of talks, but it was about sysinternals. It was about a few other things and not really interesting to me. So I kind of missed what does an Azure data center look like in 2022, or what will it look like in 2025? That kind of stuff I would have liked to see, but
He did have one like that, Scott. There is one that he did. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. You just
I'll
need to look
find
for
it.
Yeah. I was at it. It was really good. It was quite interesting. Yeah.
I love that stuff. I'm just like a kid with candy. That's just
Yeah. No, it was really good. I'd highly recommend you watch it. Yeah.
there we go.
Thanks, Scott. Peter, what about you?
Well, I was very drawn to the compliance side of things. That's what I was looking for. So I was looking for anything to do with Purview. And the first thing I noticed in the book of news was the enhancements to the audit search improvements. I mean, this is something that anything that we can do to get better visibility within auditing is a good thing. And it's now generally available for both M365, E3, and E5 customers, and builds on that familiar search UI that currently is in place, and now users can run 10 concurrent audit search jobs and review the progress percentage, result number, and job status from the UI. So that's again stored for 30 days, as is typical, and can be accessed after the completion. So good filtering capabilities also built into that. So lots of good stuff in audit search. E-discovery, there's some nice stuff that came into the e-discovery suite around supporting modern collaboration features, things like shared documents and cloud attachments, very, very popular forms of communication in M365. So the ability to preserve and make that content discoverable using e-discovery, support the ability to discover the version of the document at the time it was shared. That's a big deal in the compliance side of things. So great addition to e-discovery. And another thing with e-discovery, which is quite neat actually, is that it's going to be able to capture the reactions to specific Teams messages and conversations within e-discovery collections. So you're going to be able to see who reacted with what reaction, if it's a thumbs up or a laugh or a heart, that sort of thing, and what message and what time, to understand who knew what and when. And for users who are on a legal hold, they'll be able to see reactions to edited or deleted messages. So lots of good stuff in e-discovery. And similarly, within data governance with retention labels, they're going to be able to allow users to apply data governance while they do their work. And this is now generally available, where users can apply the data retention and deletion policies directly within the Files tab within Microsoft Teams. So very, very convenient for users working within Teams, and the ability to retain shared versions as well. So that is along similar lines of accessing those shared versions in e-discovery. Same sort of feature within retention also. So lots of good stuff. One or two things I noticed in insider risk management as well, which was nice, and in trainable classifiers within information protection, out of the box trainable classifiers, over 20 classifiers to discover and auto classify more than 30 types of sensitive content. So great stuff in Purview. More in the book of news as well. So check that out if you're compliance inclined as I am. I can't really think of anything major that would be a missed opportunity, so I'm going to be really picky and pick on something very, very small. But it bugs me that in the solutions catalog in Microsoft Purview, we have a category called Insider Risk Management, and then inside there is actually an item called Insider Risk Management as well. So I really wish they'd fix that. So that's my very, very minor missed opportunity. Other than that, all good stuff.
Thanks, Peter. April, what about you? I know you are presented and you had a lot of information there. So
I'm actually going to talk about Power Apps. To surprise Greg, who thought I was going to talk about Gaz. I will in a minute. Don't worry. Power Apps had some great stuff come out in terms of capability. And we talk about Power Apps being low code or no code and enabling people to do something with very minimal training. So it was actually great to see a lot of stuff they're doing with Power Apps. So they were showing where in Satya's demo, you can literally write out what you want and it works out of flow and then creates the Power App for you. It literally allows someone with no coding background to get started. And I think that's pretty cool. We had a lot of focus on cybersecurity. We had David Okoyode up on stage in the UK, who's written a few books on security. And the security story is an interesting one. As a developer, it's not something I want to talk about. You know, you just like, I want to write code, I don't care about security, but everyone has to care about it. And as an IT pro, we deal with breaches all the time. So security was the big topic for us. And I think going forward this year, we're going to see a lot of securing of things. We saw it with AKS. Peter talked about it with the M365 and compliance. Like that's kind of the future. So I will lead into GAS. So GitHub Advanced Security on Azure DevOps. They've announced that it's coming. It won't be out yet per se, but it's in very, very private preview. This is something that I get asked all the time. When are these features coming to Azure DevOps? It's actually something we've had internal at Microsoft for a long time. So now we're making it publicly available for the people, which is amazing. So that will be exciting to see what's coming down the road. But yeah, I think there's been a lot on security and the AI side, enablement and innovation, lowering that barrier to entry effectively.
Excellent points. All right, so we're going to change it up a little bit. I think we like covered our favorites. So this might be a little bit more of a fun question. If there was one thing that you think folks missed out of the announcements, what would it be? So we'll start with John. Make sure he's not falling asleep up there.
No, I'm awake now. You just woken me up even more with that question. One thing that people may have missed from the announcements. Right, yeah, you put me right on the spot there. I think one thing that I was looking for more than anything, and maybe I missed it, so I'll change the question around a bit. But side projects that I'm interested in personally looking into, and I can see the development from a Microsoft perspective, and the kind of the way forward is all around kind of this IoT, mixed reality, augmented reality type thing. Now, I know Alex was at the UK Spotlight event, with our good friend Pete Gallagher talking about kind of some of the bits and pieces that we got coming up in the community and things like that. But I would have loved to have seen more about kind of HoloLens advances. Now, whether or not I missed it, I don't know. But certainly, I'm not sure if there was anything in Seattle. But for me, that's a huge part of kind of where we're headed as an industry over the coming years. So to see more content of that, now that there's whole heap of content, and I'll plug some community events that we got coming up in the UK, Tech Day events, and a flight into IoT 2, the long haul, is coming up in about a month's time. So just got to get that plug in there. So I don't know if anybody else saw anything around kind of HoloLens, IoT, mixed reality, augmented reality, but I would have loved to have seen more of that kind of content personally. So sorry for changing the question around a bit. Maybe that was just an ask from my perspective.
No, not at all. And the only thing, I mean, Gregor, I don't know if you have any perspective on this, but the only thing that I remember seeing was a very small like HoloLens experience that you could jump into. But aside from that, thoughts?
Yeah, there was a HoloLens too, where it was quite popular actually. You could go and try it, but I don't think there's any sessions on it, to be honest, John. I don't think there was any content on it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just I find that intriguing because that HoloLens experience has been around now for a number of years. In person before COVID, we've always been able to kind of go up. You can guarantee there'll be a couple of HoloLenses somewhere to go in and see what color kitchen you want fitted and kind of overlay that in real time in a space. But yeah, I just find it fascinating that we're heading towards those kinds of areas. But yeah, content at big events, we have the big keynote events where we talk about it at that high level and with the nice glossy videos and marketing. But love to see more from product teams in those spaces and kind of where we're going. And it's out there. It's just seems really quiet at the moment. I think it's probably.
I think we struggle with uptake. So in the UK we have our MTC, and I've done the HoloLens demo for the medical field. Absolutely. I actually sat with a customer at Heathrow Airport that does cargo, and we talked about using the HoloLens to get the cargo around. The problem they had here in the UK was taking someone who is not trained in any digital way in a very paper heavy industry, the airline industry, and say, wear this device. And then health and safety got involved. So the customer's like, we want to enable HoloLens, but then there's that digital skills gap. And it became a union argument about wearing a device. And like, so it's hard to uptake because we do hit barriers to entry. And for that customer, it was the people were like, we write pen and paper. We don't do digital, we're just cargo people. They just refused it. And that was a really hard thing. So there's so many good use cases, but we definitely see it a lot more in the medical industry.
I guess on that point, it's more around these sessions like Ignite, kind of showcasing. I know they showcase at that high level, but doing more content to bring it out into the community more, kind of sometimes breaks those barriers down. With, like you say, with getting those kind of bits of technology into business and those areas. So yeah, I get it, April. I understand. But
well, let's go, John. Let's get a HoloLens campaign out, and we'll start it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all the good, cool, shiny stuff I get attracted to, but then I got my 9 to 5. But yeah, that was kind of my bit there on futures. Yeah. Sorry to change.
Sure, John, and I stand corrected too. As you were talking, I was thinking like there was another, and I think there was another keynote on the second day where someone had done on the side wall. It was industrial. So it was industrial demo where they had done HoloLens. But again, it, did it get the focus that it really needed? No. I think it was a very brief, 5-minute here's what we can do. This is a warehouse approach, whatever else. You can kind of see the dynamics of how things are working. But yeah, I don't know that it hit the focus that it really needed. So
it's that whole digital twin thing, especially for industrial, being able to kind of control and see sensor data in a portal and interact. Actually, tell a lie, the one thing that I did see on the UK Spotlight, again, probably answering the question now, is the bit around wind farms. So the bit around digital twins and where was it Avanade, April, that was on the stage? I can't remember now. I think it might have been Avanade.
It was Avanade.
Yeah, giving the demonstration where they had the wind farm, they had the proximity sensors on people that were working in close proximity with these wind turbines. So, literally in a digital twin, these people could be tracked for where they were walking around the wind farm. And of course, if there were any problems, they could literally click on a particular tower, scan around it in 3D space. So, yeah, that was there. That was probably about a 20-minute session, I think, at the UK Spotlight. So there we go. I answered the question. Everybody go and check it.
I was going to say, and now, you started out being worried, and now you probably set the bar really, really high. So,
Get it.
Yeah.
Shannon, that's going to be a hard act to follow, but let's see what we got.
It is. So I think for me, and it was talked about during Joy Chick's keynote. Now she is the leader of identity at Microsoft, and there was another separate session on ADFS outright, certificate-based authentication. So it meets the U.S. Executive Order on Cybersecurity. And yes, I had to pull this up because I always want to flap some of these words around. But it helps customers easily deploy phishing-resistant authentication. And so really what is this signaling? We're kind of at the end of ADFS, right? You don't need ADFS on premises anymore, especially if this exists in the realm of identity. So I think that's the one I wanted to call out just because of the fact that I know I only caught a little bit here and there. And I feel like it's a pretty important bit to bring up just because of the fact that there are these holdouts, right? There are these folks who say they want to keep their ADFS environment on-prem. And we're trying to tell them, you don't have to. I mean, you can, right? We're not going to forcibly take ADFS out of your environment, right? No, but we're trying to give folks an easier way so you don't have to have this huge ADFS environment on-prem with multiple different roles. You don't have to think about your WAPs anymore. You don't have to think about the fact that you can just change your authorization to actually hit Azure Active Directory, and it's handled for that, right? It's a global service. So that's the only thing I could think of that I thought might need a little bit of extra TLC. And our team's doing quite a bit with ADFS as it stands. So if you've tuned into any of the 425 shows recently, you've seen my colleague building out a hilarious app It's called adfs.me. And the idea is to try and put some sort of static web app that's out there, and you can figure out if you have ADFS installed. Because what we're noticing is these smaller companies don't even know they have it sometimes, right? Maybe the people that we're talking to aren't the ones that are managing and maintaining the environments. So we're trying to build out these really interesting, creative ways to get folks excited about, hey, one, do you have ADFS? Hey, two, you don't necessarily need it anymore. And hey, three, here's the reasons why. So
I like that. And as you're talking, I'm like trying to dig up the session because Shannon, to kind of add to what you were calling out, I know I think Rick Claus and his team, they had a session on Azure Active Directory and ADSSO and on-premises AD, and it was interesting because they went through a bunch of the stuff we talked, a little bit MFA, whatever else. They threw CBA out as well, but one of the things they had mentioned I think it was like 26% of global administrators have MFA turned on right now, which was like
yeah. So that's a pretty low number if you think about it. And the secure score is something that I think, so, there's secure score with Defender for Cloud. I keep wanting to say Azure Security Center. I had to stop. I sometimes I wish we wouldn't rebrand because old habits die hard, right? But there's secure score as well within Entra. So take a look at it. And one of the recommendations is to make sure that MFA is turned on for global administrators. And that is a free MFA license, by the way. And there's no really license, really. If you're a global administrator, you get the option to turn on MFA, and you don't need any premium licensing to be able to do that. So it's staggering what people wind up doing. And our goal as a division is to try and reshape and change and educate. So I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that because I still feel like there are going to be holdouts regardless, but any way to get that message out there is awesome from our perspective.
Excellent. Gregor, you're up.
So again, being there, I haven't really seen what they missed. So I've got a list of things that I wish I had seen. There wasn't anything on SQL Server 2022. Now, I know that's not out yet, but I thought it might have been good to see a demo of it, or at least see some people talking about it. The other thing that was interesting was there was a whole big area about Surface, and Surface is celebrating its 10-year history. Thought a little bit odd that you couldn't buy any devices there. I was a little bit disappointed in that because they were doing, look at our shiny new laptops, look at our lovely headsets and all our new stuff. And then, where can we buy it? You can't. I was a bit like, well, that sucks a little bit. So I'd like to see the shop come back. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I would like to be able to buy some stuff. Other things that I thought were missing, demos of things like GitHub Copilot. People who don't have MVPs, stuff like that, and haven't paid for it, I think it'd be really nice to show demos of that now. One or two talks had it, but they were kind of rushing through it, and no one really had time in their talk to say, this is Copilot, this is what it can do for you. That would have been quite nice. Defender for DevOps gets a mention in the Defender for Cloud for DevOps gets a mention in the book of news. I don't know if that was covered anywhere. I'm not sure. I haven't really seen any sessions back yet.
We did something. There was something. Right. I saw an email come out internally. I haven't seen the session, but the team I work with, it's out there. Cool. I think Donovan did the GAS one. But no, there's something. But it wasn't big. It didn't get a lot of attention, did it?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Last couple of things. The learning area wasn't there, as Scott Duffy said, and the product groups weren't there. To me, that was a big miss. And the last one was one of the benefits of being there in person was you could ask the experts, which I really thought was good. That's a good thing. I really liked the fact that they had MVPs and kind of well-known community members there as well, being able to help. So, like yourself, you could do a session and ask the experts. I thought that was really cool. I like the fact that Microsoft are kind of getting community people involved more because I think that helps because there are people who have a lot of knowledge that can help. So I thought that was really good. Yeah, that's me really.
Awesome. Love that. All right, Scott, you're up, my friend.
I feel like we're covering a lot in this session so far. So for me, I think the thing that we didn't really talk about, and they announced this before Ignite, so I kind of knew it was coming for about a month or two, was the DevBox stuff. So being able to just spin up a development machine in the cloud without having to install a bunch of things, like there's actually just recently I ended up writing some labs for a partner, and like the first half of the lab is creating a Visual Studio instance in the cloud, and then all installing what's that? Anyways, to create images and things like that. So it's sort of like great to play with DevBox, but yeah, it didn't really. You don't see that in the highlights in terms of like getting a development machine, or at least the move. I can just sort of see the trend of your, with virtual desktop, your work machine being in the cloud. Like that's just oh, you need to work on this project, you spin up that one. You need to work on that project, you spin that down, you spin the other one up, and things like that. So this kind of trend, I guess, is on the horizon. But yeah, that's could have got more attention, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I know there's been some information about it, but it's been very few and far between. So I think those devices can be managed in Endpoint Manager too, right, or Intune or whatnot. But yeah, good stuff. Yeah. Peter, what you got for us?
Yeah, well, a couple of things that caught my eye that I've not really heard anyone else talk about, so they may have gone under the radar for a few folks, was Microsoft Defender for Endpoint 50% off for a limited time. So that really surprised me, and that's on for a limited time off Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 and Plan 2 licenses, and they're calling out that that phrase of the event of to do more with less, or in this case, to spend less to modernize their security. So that was an interesting one to me. I don't know what that means, why they feel the need to do that, because I certainly don't see any struggle in the uptake of Defender for Endpoint. There's good plans available, Plan 1 and Plan 2, Defender for Business, which has a lot of the content of Plan 2 in there for up to 300 users, really good value. So that was a really interesting one to me. I didn't quite understand that one. But the other one that raised my eyebrow as well was Defender apparently now disrupts ransomware at machine speed, which I was talking to my good friend Rue Campbell about this as we reviewed Ignite on our own podcast when we were at South Coast Summit, and his reaction was, well, it's a bit concerned. Hasn't it always done that? So it now automatically disrupts ransomware attacks by collecting and correlating signals across endpoints and identities, emails, documents, and cloud apps into unified incidents. So this is good if there's an improvement, but if I'm honest, I thought that was already there. So a couple of things on Defender there, which caught my eye, certainly.
Well, thank you, sir. And April, saving the best for last, hopefully.
I'm going to talk about the lack of swag. We go to in-person events and there's no swag, and I get it. It's more green to not give stuff out. And when you go to an event, people steal stickers and stuffed animals and things, and yeah, but it connects someone to the community. And actually, there was a post on Saturday from the South Coast Summit. Donna Sarkar posted of a nice young boy who's like 9, 10, I don't know, but a genius, builds apps with Power Apps, and he talks about his inclusivity. And I met him last year, and I gave him a bit. One of our raccoons.
Oh yeah.
Gonna break everything. I gave him a bit, and he goes, "Oh, I still have it." Da-da-da. So I've created a connection with a kid who's smarter than I am and writing better apps than I am with Power Apps, which is, amazing. But the swag thing, like that, creates that connection. It shows the brand off. I get it's good and green to not just put out plastic and things, but I think this hoodie I'm wearing is an advocacy hoodie, and I think it's all recycled material. So we could still be green and give swag. So I think swag would be the big thing that we missed out on.
I need more socks as well, April.
Ask Adam. Adam Jackson.
Well, no, I mean, Office 365 socks, Azure socks. I've got them all. And it's like, it's been 2.5 years now.
It's time.
And over that time frame, I mean, let's be honest, we need like redundancy and resiliency. So at least 2 pair for each.
I had to go buy clothes for Ignite. I've been at home. I've been like wearing running pants for years now, but my jeans are probably 2.5, 3 years old. And I was like, I can't be on stage in these because they've been stretched, moved, faded, ripped. Yeah, I had to go buy clothes for Ignite. I was like, oh, I'm going to see people in real life. Like this half is fine. The down half, probably need to wear something other than like running pants on stage.
I
If
mean,
want
you
socks,
could have.
Stephen Rose can sort you out. Stephen Rose sent me some great inside Microsoft Teams socks, so he's your man for socks.
Nice.
So I'm gonna.
Sorry,
I'm gonna
Shannon. I
start
think I was
surveying.
talking over you there.
Oh no! All I was gonna say is you could have started a new trend, April. The April Edwards with the running pants.
I'm wearing them right now, but I'm not standing up. And I'm also, as Amy's pointing out about socks, I'm not wearing socks either. So yeah, I'm not standing up. I am without question wearing running attire. But yeah, I'll keep it from the lower half down, not on camera ever. No. If people want to see me in running attire, I have a triathlon blog, and they can go see me sweat and die on a course, and yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I don't need to wear that on stage.
Awesome. So I just put a feeler out. Let's see if we can take some community questions. If anybody's got anything for us. I mean, we've got all kind of great experts here. Otherwise, we'll just continue kibitzing and, bantering back and forth between each other until somebody gets.
I was going to say on the point of something else that kind of maybe slipped through the net. But did I see that there was that Office 365 had been rolled up into that Microsoft 365 umbrella term now as well? So we no longer use the term Office 365. Am I right that I saw
That happened a while ago.
Did it?
Yeah, didn't that already happen?
It's like official now, like we're back to Intune.
There's a new logo. I think there's a new logo for it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's always a new logo. Andrew McCallum asked if the feedback from the host here can be built into the next Ignite. So I actually gave a feedback form to the UK folks today, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me personally about feedback from the US side. They're like, you're probably not the right person, but here's all my feedback. And I'm like, okay. So I've gone to the UK team and said, here's the the feedback I'm getting from folks that were in the US side. I didn't make any friends today. I also did a true retro, what went well, what didn't go well, and what we could do better for the UK. And I think it's tough. I mean, everyone has been happy. No one's given me any negative feedback about the UK, but having been on the back side of it, I know exactly what went wrong and when. So my feedback was a lot around that and the technical sessions. But and this is tough. And John, you said it, like it is easy for me to literally rock up in my sweatpants and do this call or my running shorts. But to go to an event, I have to travel, takes time away from my other work. And it means I have to wear clothes, and that's hard after 2.5 years. But it's, we want to go back in person. So we need to start small. We need people to come back to these events and support it. So these have to build up again. And I think everyone giving the feedback is crucial to making them better. And we have to build this thing. I mean, we're not going to have a 50,000 person Ignite probably ever again, because people aren't going to get the funding to travel. And we actually reach more people by doing things digitally and hybrid. We had, I don't actually have the numbers yet. I've asked for them. The UK had 50,000 people tuned in at one time, just in the UK. So with all due respect, in person in the UK, when we had Ignite the tour, we never got 50,000. So, and even the US, you maxed out at about 50K, but we had about 250,000 registered online for the US. So, but those aren't firm numbers, so ignore me on that. But Alan asked if there'll be an Ignite on tour. Probably not, as we're doing the local activations. Probably the spotlights. We'll see. Shannon could probably attest to this. As advocates, like we were in charge of delivering a lot of that content, and we went around the globe and delivered it. And I was actually part of Ignite. It was huge. It cost us a lot of money.
It did.
But the impact locally was amazing. I loved it. I went to some amazing places, spoke to people locally. I don't know.
Well,
it's above our pay grade, right?
Yeah, I don't get to make those decisions. Amy and I are going to do a GoFundMe and go on tour and buy a van.
There you go.
Without any of the wink or whatever else, I mean, do we, on the same topic, do we expect that maybe those local locations, those satellite locations, will expand So we go from 8 or 10 to double, or we don't have to answer it, but
I was gonna say I don't know
curious.
if anybody knows that. Yeah, because of the fact that that's the event planning team, and
Yeah, because I'm just thinking it's, again, it's 2 days next year, right? So
Yeah.
really 2-3 days stretching, but I'm
Sure.
curious if that, if that grows, because maybe that's a step in the right direction too.
yeah, maybe.
And I think so. And the UK is a big sub for Microsoft, and we actually have the highest amount of MVPs in the UK and EMEA, globally, even more so than the US. So we have an amazing technical community. So it's tough. And then also the other thing we look at is with the regional activations. We did this in Asia and in South America, local to their area. They speak in their language. So with Ignite the Tour, I sat there with a translator in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I don't speak Portuguese at all. I know Obrigado, and that is it. Like that was it. And I remember the translator's like, slow down. And I'm like, okay. But having native speakers in those countries, Germany did it, Japan did it. That's really key. And also Microsoft's a big engine. So having local people there is important to building that connection. And I think there's benefits, but yes, I missed the big thing. I don't know. I don't get to make these decisions.
I wish we could, because
ask, but
we would we'd already do it, right, April? If it was up to us, we would already figured it out.
You know what? And I think if we had an unlimited amount of budget and all the amazing
100%,
we'd make it. So Amy and I are going to go on tour in a van. Shannon, you're welcome to come.
Awesome.
I think we're probably going to bring some dogs with us, but we're going to go on tour. We're going to do it.
That's fine.
Awesome.
Don't say advogado again, okay? That's not a word.
Obrigado.
Yeah.
Again, my Portuguese is pretty bad, but yeah, I actually was asked to give a talk in Spanish the other day, and I'm like, would they accept translation? Because again, I speak zero Spanish. But I was challenged by the folks in Switzerland to come to a talk entirely in German.
Wow.
So I've accepted that challenge.
Is it going to be broadcasted live?
God, I hope not. I hope not. Well, because you also have Swiss German and you have like German. So I was like, can I do German? They're like, yeah, not a problem. Yeah. Look, I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be okay in German. But yeah, we're not going to broadcast that. That would
just make sure you get like blooper reels, right? That would if there are any worthwhile enough, accumulate the blooper reels, and that should be what you release. Just kidding.
How April got fired from Microsoft. It started here.
So Andrew's like killing it with feedback here, but I like this idea too. Partner with Reactor for Ignite as local venues. I mean, those are already established in locales.
Yes,
but they do a really good job.
But they're small.
Yeah.
So in the UK, again, I can only speak for the UK. I think we only fit like 150, maybe 200, because we looked at that for build, and London is very expensive. And the problem is our reactors in London, because that's where the hip trendy people are. Yeah, I mean, we do global content with the reactor folks, but yeah, it's tough. Where do you host people? And then also the reality is we lost people to COVID. I would say lost. That sounds terrible. People were unable to attend due to COVID. We didn't lose anyone. But yeah, it's the new world we're in. So a lot of people had to bail. We had to move sessions around, and people complained, well, this session wasn't there. I said, yes, well, unfortunately, the person speaking, the host got COVID. It sucks, but that's our world.
Yeah, I think we can have an element of in-person, but I think given the sort of technologies that we are promoting and evangelizing, we also have a responsibility to practice what we preach, because we keep on telling all of our customers, well, you can work from anywhere on any device, and if we just revert back to what was, then we're not sticking to that example. So I think that's
and in Scott's remit with Udemy and stuff. I was working with a UK provider that is teaching using the HoloLens and the Oculus, so using the metaverse to connect with people, but not having to leave. And I think, so again, I kind of mentioned we got Oculuses. I don't know what to do with mine. I play mini golf on it. I shoot things. And we were supposed to work with them, and I thought about hosting an event in the metaverse, and doing like a course in the metaverse and see, because we have a lot of people around that are starting to do it, but it's such an unknown still, and it's scary because my avatar looks ridiculous, but it's an option.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, some good MVP folks are doing a lot in the metaverse. People like Chris Horde and Fesson Open are doing a lot of good work there.
All right, fine. I'm going to say it. It's been like 70 minutes, and no one has said the word bacon, so I'm going to say it.
Oh,
There was not enough bacon. My God.
You at least got bacon. I didn't
It
even
looked
know
like
there
there
was bacon.
was. Yeah, it looked like there was. There were a ton of pictures. That just goes to
Yeah,
show you.
I found it in a back corner with a stack of donuts, and
Next to
I
the
thought it was
HoloLens.
probably, but seriously, I mean, come on, we were so used to like 7 or 8 different flavors. It was only one day. No, I couldn't. I had to say it. I'm sorry. The socks, bacon, please more.
We didn't have bacon in England. I want a refund. We didn't even have a donut wall either. We had one for Build. We had a donut wall, and I was like, yes, no donut wall, no bacon.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
And I probably
salads
shouldn't say
and
it, but
noodles.
they're like maple donuts. So
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
Can someone ship me a few, please? Like, send me some maple bacon donuts.
No.
Thank you.
Guys, you got to do more with less.
Well, we can do it in the metaverse. I can have my
Oh.
bacon in the metaverse.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, fine. Donut holes. Got it.
Now, saying that, before Ignite, we did order Tim Hortons. There's a few Tim Hortons around the UK. We ordered coffee and donuts. It's not the same as Timmy's in Canada, I'll be honest. But
Cheers.
yeah.
Yeah, we got one of those up in the northeast of England not long ago. I didn't even know what that was until so that's new to me.
My wife took me to Tim Hortons in Glasgow for my birthday, so it's special.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
Andrew, I'm sorry. I didn't go to Slattery's in Manchester. It was hard. I didn't get out much. Like at all. Yeah. I was like ruled with an iron fist by our production team from like 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. every night. And then I just went back and did a face plant in my hotel room because I was so tired. Yeah, it's a busy few days. It's a busy week because I was there all week. So I didn't get out much. So, yeah, well, price you pay for smiling and nodding on camera all day.
Man, but you did awesome. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really good. I was surprised how much you were actually on. How much work you actually had to do, because I thought it was really good going. I was like, wow, you've done a lot over that couple of days. So yeah, awesome job.
Yeah, they on the second day they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I was just really quiet, and I would sit there like this, and I'm just like. And then when the cameras came on, I'd light up, and they're just like, "Holy crap!" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just had to like reserve my energy because you're on constantly, and you have someone talking in your ear as well." Our producer was a guy named Nick, and I'm like, "Oh, Nick, how I missed your sultry voice the last 5 minutes," And he would give us cues because it's also timings. There's a lot of ad-libbing that hopefully no one noticed, and there's a lot that goes on because things, the keynote stage goes short, it goes long. And John, you experienced it at Build. John came on the sofa with us to do an interview. They cut us off at like a minute and a half, and the cameras cut off, and I just exploded. And I'm like, I'm doing an interview with John. John is our best MVP here in the UK. No offense to Gregor. Gregor's also best.
I'll say that.
Peter, but John drove to be here for this interview, and you gave him a minute and a half, and I just exploded at the producer. He goes, "I'll get you a camera." I was like, "Thank you." So John and I went and did like 20 minutes downstairs, and an ad hoc interview. But I was like, this guy's driven, a few hours from Wales, and you gave him a minute and a half on the sofa, but they had to because of all the timing. So there's a lot that goes on in the background that you don't see that hopefully looks like nothing went wrong. So,
but April, I got my hair and makeup done.
You looked amazing.
And
we had this is my fault because when I did Build, I had to go to the US and record one of my sessions for Build, and I get there and I might have been hungover I was doing tequila shots with Jason Helmick and Jeff Hicks at the bar the night before. And I was there for PowerShell Summit. So I was there doing 4 days of speaking, tequila, handstands, etc. Get up the next morning to go record for Build, and I get to campus, and they're like, "Oh, my name's so and so. Can I get you a coffee?" I was like, "No, I'll go get a coffee." They're like, "No, I'm here to get it for you." I'm like, "Okay." I walk into a room, and they're like, "Oh, this is so and so. She's your makeup and hair artist." And I'm like, "I just spent 45 minutes with tequila sweats doing my hair and makeup," and then I walk in, and the woman does everything. And when I came back to the UK, and I was like, when they're like, "You were gonna host Build," and I'm like, "Do I get a makeup artist?" They're like, "Absolutely." So when John came in, he got his hair and makeup done, and it makes a huge difference on camera. And so I'm spoiled now by that. So
I felt like Britney Spears as soon as they put that mic on as well, you know, hair, makeup.
Yeah, you feel like you're a pop star.
Hit me, baby.
Hey, John, did you get any beard product?
Do you know what? I could have done. I could have had some beard oil in there, and that would have just made, you know, that's a cherry on the top. But the makeup was awesome, you know.
Yeah.
My wife is actually quite worried now that she's running low on foundation, but you know, she doesn't know where it's going.
You're sneaking it.
Yes.
Well, not anymore now that you shared it out here. So
Well, that's yeah. That's if she's watching. She's probably not watching.
She'll be asleep right now. It's 1:15 in the UK.
Yeah, most normal people are sleeping here, but yeah, I think John, it really, and I'll say this to all the guys watching, like when you're on camera, it just takes the shine off your forehead. For me, it's like the sweat that comes pouring out. They actually nickname me April Hot Flash Edwards in the middle, because you have like these stadium lights on you the whole day, and people you're going. And the poor makeup artist kept coming over to me and like fixing my lipstick, and I'm like, she's like, "You don't normally wear lipstick," and I'm like, "No, I don't." And she's like, "Stop drinking," and I'm like, "I'm thirsty." So she's constantly like slathering on. But I think for the guys out there, I think John, you were a prime example how just it makes such a difference on camera. Just even doing your weekly talk. So yeah, steal your wife's makeup. I won't tell her.
Indeed.
Awesome. All right. I'm not seeing other questions out here. Anybody else?
Amy has a question, don't you, Amy? Come on.
Maybe.
Amy said she was going to heckle me, so I'm waiting.
I got
Amy's
another one.
by the way, so she's allowed to heckle me.
I got a proper technical one that I saw. Another one of these things that came up, and I thought, oh, that's quite cool. It's going somewhere. But Windows 365. I mean, there's been a lot of talk of that over the last kind of year since it's kind of went out to preview. But they've got that new app now that I think is going to eventually end up in Windows 11 to get access to your cloud PC. So that's going to be real interesting to see how that kind of develops over time, and you know the nuances between cloud PC, Windows 365/AVD. You know, that's going to be quite a cool thing to see how that pans out.
Yeah, it's a good call out, John. I think we can talk about the offline feature too, right? Where I think they were joking about not joking, but bringing up the, hey, you can take it and work from a submarine, and then it'll just synchronize when you come back online again. It's like, I can't wait to see it. I haven't tried it yet, but I can't wait to get my hands on it and just see it work. I'd be really intrigued.
You have a submarine?
Yeah. Do you keep that in your backyard, or like where do you
keep that? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that part I forgot. Yeah.
No.
We are getting some heckling here.
Yeah, those tech salaries these days, man.
I'm in the wrong industry.
All right.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be any questions. So yeah.
That's it.
All right. Well, what say you folks? I know it's super late for a bunch of you all, so why don't we wrap and say thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules, busy lives, your sleep arrangements. We appreciate you all. We appreciate the session. We appreciate the insights. So, anything to add there?
No, thank you so much for coming on. This was a great session. I truly enjoyed it. It was a good conversation, and hopefully, we can do this again.
Anytime.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks
thank
for
you
having
so
us.
much.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
everyone.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
thank
everyone.
you, viewers, too. We appreciate you. So thanks for coming out, hanging out with us. If you're not subscribed, please do. You know the drill. Find the button, click the things.
Smash it. Smash
Yeah.
that button.
Smash it hard. All right. Thank you all. Have a great day, evening, night, wherever you may be. And until next time.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.